Even though the period of Khilji rule at Delhi was for a relatively brief period, from about 1290 to 1320 CE, it saw important changes in the socio-economic and administrative structure of the Delhi Sultanate. Some scholars have pointed out the nature of it being a political revolution, while almost all have discussed the broadening of the nobility as the most important consequence of the Khilji rule. Hi guys, welcome to Itihaskar. My name is Kriti, and in this video, we will look into different political aspects of the Khilji dynasty and the territorial expansion efforts undertaken by Jalaluddin and more famously, Alauddin Khilji. Just for a little background into the rise of the Khiljis, if you've seen the video on Age of Balban, you know that there was a strict racialism and exclusion being followed during the Mamluk dynasty. Turks and Arabs were given a preference over the others like Khiljis, Afghans and the Indian Muslims. Therefore, the rise to power of Jalaluddin Khilji was not a mere change of the ruling dynasty. It was a sort of a political revolution in the history of Muslim rule in India. Jalaluddin Khilji was an old man of 67 and held many responsible posts in the short reign of Kaikabad from 1287 to 1290. Factionalism amongst the nobility was imminent as Kaikabad was not a very efficient ruler, and so upon his death, Jalaluddin emerged as the leader of the state. But he did not become Sultan at the first go. He became first the regent to the minor son of Kaikabad. But when even the young son passed away, then it was urged by the youthful Khilji nobles, and they persuaded Jalaluddin to declare himself Sultan in 1290 CE. Now, unfortunately, Jalaluddin was a total softie. Having served the throne of the Sultanate for so many years, he didn't seem himself worthy to be sitting on that same throne. For almost a year, his capital was at Kilugarhi in the vicinity of Delhi. Jalaluddin won over the aristocratic families of the capital by his virtuous conduct, generosity and good governance. He treated all the nobility liberally, even his political opponents. Moreover, he tried to bridge the gap between the Turks and the non-Turks, which had been a consequence of Balban's rule. There was an end to the supremacy of the Ilbari Turks. Young Khilji nobles were now appointed. But this accommodating nature of Jalaluddin also led to a widespread disgust and disenchantment with the Sultan's power. Everyone was under the impression of the pomp and grandeur of the Sultanate under Balban, and so when Jalaluddin went out forgiving treason and dismissing political rebellions against him and the throne, many of the young Khilji nobles themselves began conspiring for a stronger ruler. One of them was Alauddin Khilji, nephew and son-in-law of Jalaluddin himself. In this context, Alauddin's expedition to Devgarhi in 1296 is quite famous. Devgarhi, or Daulatabad in Maharashtra, was famous for its wealth and prosperity and was then ruled over by the Yadav king Ramchandra Dev. Under the pretext of attacking Chanderi, Alauddin made a sudden assault on Devgarhi instead, and the king and the princes were taken unaware. And after a rather dramatic and confused skirmish, Alauddin returned from Devgarhi victorious, heavily laden with booty and riches. It was this expedition which led to the murder of Jalaluddin Khilji in 1296 and is also portrayed semi-accurately in the Bollywood movie Padmavat. Now, Alauddin had earned quite a reputation as the young, ambitious nephew of the Sultan to watch out for among the Turkish nobility and the fanatical Muslim ulama. That is why, even after committing the crime of Jalaluddin's assassination in cold blood and naming himself as the new Sultan, the entire ruling Muslim elite soon forgot the murder of their chief and offered allegiance to the rising star of the Sultanate, Alauddin Khilji. Alauddin did not accept Jalaluddin's theory of benevolence and humanitarianism, considering them to be unsuitable to the times, signifying a weak government. He adhered more to Balban's theory of fear being the basis of good governance, to be applied both to the noble class and to the common people as well. He revived Balban's system of spies, who kept him informed of all developments. The freedom of nobility was heavily reduced, as now they couldn't even form marriage alliances without the knowledge of the Sultan. Let's now discuss the territorial expansion of Delhi Sultanate under Alauddin Khilji. The expansion took in many phases, but we will concern ourselves with the first two important ones. The first one saw areas of Gujarat, Rajasthan and Malwa, not far from Delhi, being brought under control of the Sultanate. And in the second phase, kingdoms in Maharashtra and Deccan were raided, though they were not annexed. Talking about Gujarat, the Turks had been trying to occupy it ever since the time of Ghaznavids. In my previous video on Mahmud of Ghazni and Muhammad Ghori, I have talked in detail how the Chalukyas of Gujarat were able to retain their independence for a very long time. Geographically, ports of Gujarat were important trading centers with West Asia, and merchants of all religious groups had been settled there. Therefore, Alauddin didn't exactly need an excuse to attack Gujarat. In 1299, Alauddin attacked suddenly, and the ruler of Gujarat, Rai Karan, was taken by surprise. He fled to Devgiri. His wife Kamla Devi was taken to Alauddin's harem, treated well. On his Gujarat expedition, Alauddin also obtained the Hazar Dinari slave Malik Kafur. After bringing Gujarat under his rule, it was necessary for Alauddin to bring Rajasthan and Malwa under his control as well, in order to secure communications with Gujarat. Therefore, in the years from 1301 to 1310, Alauddin captured important forts and capitals of Ranthambore, Chittor, Siwana and Jalore. What is important to remember here is that Alauddin did not attempt to establish any direct control. He tried for cordial relations with the Rajputs, and it is under him that we have the first evidence of a matrimonial political alliance with a Hindu princess. Similarly, Malwa was brought under control to open a way to southern parts of Indian subcontinent and to keep open communications with Gujarat. The area of Maharashtra today was in the times of Alauddin Khilji known as Devgarhi with Yadav kings. After his ousting from Gujarat, the Waghela king Rai Karan had fled to Devgiri. Even though Devgari had once been raided by Alauddin in 1296, Ramchandra Dev had stopped paying tribute to Delhi and even given shelter to Rai Karan Singh. Therefore, to reinstate Delhi's authority, Alauddin marched to Devgari again in 1304 CE. Ramchandra Dev was brought to Delhi and kept with warm welcome for about 6 months, and soon Alauddin married his daughter, the princess of Devgari, Jhatyapali. Matrimonial relations with Hindu Rajas were also forged when Deval Devi, daughter of Rai Karan and Kamla Devi, was wed to Khizr Khan, Alauddin's son. There are three major kingdoms which deserve our attention in the peninsular India. Kakatiyas of Warangal in present-day Telangana, Hoysalas of Dwar Samudra in present-day Karnataka, and the Pandyas of Madurai in present-day Tamil Nadu. Alauddin had no intention of annexing any of these states and bringing them under his direct administration or direct control, since he knew that the distance was too much and the different socio-economic conditions would make such an attempt quite dangerous. All he wanted was them to pay Delhi an annual tribute and accept the Sultanate's sovereignty. But soon he realized that such a plan was also full of flaws. Although he had made non-annexation a deliberate policy with regard to Devgiri and some of the southern states, the rulers of these respective kingdoms kept evading authority of Delhi as and when it was possible. So soon, these states needed to be annexed, which came about during the last years of Alauddin Khilji, in the years of Malik Kafur's regency and the interregnum leading to the establishment of the Tughlaq dynasty by Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq. This third and the last phase of annexation of southern states happened during the years 1315 to 1328. In the next video, we will discuss the famously important agrarian and market reforms of Alauddin Khilji. So keep learning and stay tuned. Hi guys, hope today's video was simple and informative. If you liked what you saw, share it with your friends and family so that learning and reading history becomes more than just a textbook activity. And don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.